Welcome to the Stoic Storyteller, your sanctuary for raw, unfiltered stories about the darker side of human nature. Here, we dive deep into the reality of life, the toxic relationships, the bitter betrayals, and the quiet, calculating art of absolute justice.
The wedding invitation arrived in a cream envelope heavy enough to feel expensive and cold enough to feel like a warning. At first, I thought it was another sympathy card. My mother had been dead 9 weeks, and grief still came to my mailbox in waves. Casseroles promised too late, handwriting from women at her church, folded notes from neighbors who remembered her laugh better than I did on some mornings. But this envelope carried my sister's return address, written in gold ink like an accusation. Inside was a photograph of my sister, Celeste, laughing beside her fiancé on the dock of our mother's lake house. Not near it, not in front of it, on the dock, the same dock my father rebuilt after the flood. The same dock where my mother taught me to gut fish because she believed daughters should know how to survive without applause. The same dock where, 3 days before hospice, Mom squeezed my hand and said, "Myra, never let Celeste turn love into paperwork." Below the photograph, in elegant letters, the invitation announced, "Celeste and Grant invite you to celebrate their union at Vale House, the private lake estate of the bride." Bride, private estate. I read those words until they stopped looking like English. Vale House was not Celeste's estate. It was not her backdrop, not her inheritance, not a wedding favor wrapped in my silence. My mother left it to me because I was the one who had stayed. I paid the taxes when Celeste called the place a damp old burden. I slept beside Mom's hospital bed in the downstairs den while Celeste posted photos about family strength from hotel spas. I learned the pill schedule, the insurance codes, the way pain changes breathing before it changes words. Celeste learned how to cry beautifully in public. That was the first family law. The person who suffered quietly was considered difficult. The person who performed grief well became the victim. I called the real estate attorney, but his assistant said Mr. Klein no longer represented the estate matter. She used that phrase carefully, estate matter, as if my mother had not had a name, as if the house had not had walls filled with her voice. By sunset, I found the county filing online. A deed transfer had been recorded 8 days after the funeral. My mother's signature, dated 4 weeks before she died, transferred Vale House to Celeste in recognition of devoted care and maternal affection. Devoted care. I laughed once, sharp and ugly, alone in my kitchen. Devoted care was Celeste arriving late with lilies and leaving before the morphine wore off. Devoted care was me washing Mom's hair in a plastic basin because she wanted to feel human when the priest came. Devoted care was not a signature that bent the wrong way at the end. I downloaded the document, enlarged it, and stared at the name. Eleanor Vale. My mother's signature had always leaned forward, impatient and alive. This one trembled backward, like an old woman being dragged. That night Celeste called before I could call her. Her voice was soft with rehearsed concern. "Myra, I wanted you to hear it from me before you got upset." "Too late." She sighed as if my pain was poor manners. "Mom changed her mind. You know how intense you were at the end." She felt trapped. There it was, the story. I could hear the furniture being arranged inside it. I was intense. I was controlling. I had isolated Mom. Celeste had rescued the house from my possessiveness. Toxic families do not only steal things. They steal the reason you were allowed to love them. Celeste said, "You can still come to the wedding. It would look strange if you didn't." I looked at the invitation again. My mother's house, my sister's lie, my name erased by gold ink. Then I said the first useful lie of my life. "I'll be there." I did not know yet that this invitation was not the beginning of the theft, only the first time the theft became confident enough to use stationery. Later, I would learn that Celeste had rehearsed this moment for weeks, telling relatives I was fragile, telling vendors she was the owner, telling herself that a lie repeated in elegant ink became a document. That was her gift. She could decorate a crime until people called it healing. Celeste called it Mom's final wish because final wishes are difficult to argue with, especially when the dead cannot lean forward and call someone a thief. By noon the next day, half the family had heard her version. My Aunt Ruth phoned first, breathless and devotional, the way she sounded when drama let her feel holy. "Your mother wanted peace," she said. "Please don't punish your sister for being loved too." Being loved too. That was how Celeste survived every room. She turned greed into wounded equality. If I studied, she had been neglected. If I saved money, I had been selfish. If Mom trusted me with decisions, I had manipulated a sick woman. Celeste never wanted what I had because it mattered. She wanted it because I had been given it. I asked Aunt Ruth whether she had seen the alleged deed before Mom died. Silence. Then that isn't the point. It is always the point when people skip the evidence and start begging you to be graceful. I drove to Vale House that evening. The gate code no longer worked. A new keypad blinked red at me from the stone pillar my father built by hand. Beyond it, I could see strings of lights being hung across the lawn. White chairs were stacked near the maple tree. A rental truck sat beside the garage. Someone had tied ivory ribbon around the porch columns like the house had consented. A young man with a clipboard approached the gate. "Vendor entrance is around back," he said. "I'm not a vendor." He looked down at his list. "Family." "Yes." "Bride's side or groom's side?" For 1 second, I could not answer. The question had been designed by strangers and still found the wound. I said owner's side. He frowned. "The owner is Miss Celeste Vale." I drove away before my face could betray me. That night I spread documents across my dining table. The new deed, Mom's old will, her hospice records, tax statements, my bank transfers, and a handwritten note she had left inside the recipe box. Nothing matched Celeste's story. Mom had signed the will years earlier, leaving the house to me and equal cash accounts to Celeste, with one sentence typed in all caps because she insisted the lawyer include it. Vale House is not to be sold or transferred outside MARA's consent. Mom was not subtle when she was afraid. I called Mr. Klein again. This time I used the direct number from Mom's folder. He answered on the 4th ring, whispering like a man standing in a hallway. "Myra, I was told you were not to contact me." "By whom?" A long breath. "Your cousin Patrick." Patrick, Celeste's favorite cousin. A paralegal with a law degree he never passed the bar with, and a talent for sounding official to people who were too tired to challenge him. Mr. Klein said, "I did not prepare that deed." My hand tightened around the phone. He continued, "And your mother did not sign anything in my presence after March. By April, she could barely hold a pen. Will you put that in writing?" "I already did." "Where?" He paused, and when he spoke again his voice had changed. Less frightened, more ashamed. "Your mother insisted I record a statement in case your sister tried something after her death. I thought she was being paranoid." I closed my eyes. Everyone calls a woman paranoid right before proving her right. "Do you still have it?" I asked. "No," he said. "She took the only copy." "Where would she hide it?" Mr. Klein gave a sad little laugh. "Somewhere your sister would never look." I printed the filing 3 times because part of me kept hoping paper would change if I looked away long enough. It did not. The county stamp sat there with the blunt arrogance of government approval, and beneath it, my mother's false signature pretended to be final. That was when I understood how paperwork can become violence when the wrong person holds the pen, and the right people are too grieving to read carefully. The spare key was still under St. Jude, because my mother trusted hopeless cases more than she trusted relatives. I waited until midnight. Vale House slept under a moon so bright the windows looked awake. The wedding crew had left. The ribbon on the porch moved in the wind like a hand trying to warn me back. I parked half a mile down the road and walked through the trees, shoes sinking into damp pine needles, heart beating like I was breaking into a stranger's life. In a way, I was. Celeste had changed the locks on the front and side doors, but she had forgotten the old cellar hatch near the herb garden. Mom kept St. Jude there, not because she was religious in any obedient way, but because she liked the idea of a saint assigned to lost causes. The little statue leaned under the rosemary bush, chipped at the nose, holding a brass key beneath its base. My mother had once said, "If I ever become one of those old women who hides money in curtains, check the saints first." I almost cried then, not from sadness exactly, from the cruelty of hearing someone's joke after they are gone and realizing it has become an instruction. The cellar smelled of stone, lake water, and the apple preserves Mom made every September. Upstairs, the house had already been staged for the wedding. Family photos were gone from the hallway. Celeste had replaced them with framed engagement pictures. In the sitting room, the quilt Mom died under was folded inside a cardboard box marked donation. That was Celeste's talent, erasure with clean handwriting. I searched the obvious places first. Recipe tins, sewing basket, the drawer beneath the rotary phone. Mom's desk had been emptied except for unpaid sympathy cards Celeste had not bothered to open. I found a folder labeled Myra Instability Notes in Patrick's handwriting. Inside were printed texts, selectively cropped. "Me, she needs the stronger medication by 9. Me, don't let her sign anything when she's confused. Me, if Celeste comes alone, call me." Removed from context, care can be made to look like control. That was their second family law. Whoever documents the most can be accused of planning the crime first. In Mom's bedroom, the closet had been gutted. Her dresses were gone. Her shoes were gone. Even her perfume had disappeared from the dresser. Celeste had not wanted Mom's belongings, not really. She wanted the stage cleared before guests arrived. I sat on the bed and let myself shake for exactly 1 minute. Then I remembered Mr. Klein's phrase, "Somewhere your sister would never look." Celeste hated anything that smelled like sickness. During Mom's last month, she avoided the medical cabinet, the commode, the oxygen machine, the plastic bins of dressings. She called them depressing. She once left the room because the sound of Mom coughing ruined the energy. I went to the downstairs den. The hospital bed was gone, but the wall behind it still showed 4 pale rectangles where equipment had blocked the sun. A storage ottoman sat beneath the window. Inside were unopened bed pads, wipes, cotton gloves, and the old blue pressure pillow Mom used under her knees. The pillow had a zipper. My hands froze before I opened it. Inside was a small black flash drive taped to an index card. On the card, in Mom's handwriting, were 7 words. "Play this when Celeste thinks she won." The house felt colder with every step, as though it knew strangers had been speaking for it. I noticed little displacements Celeste would have considered harmless. Mom's chair turned toward a better camera angle, Dad's toolbox moved from the mudroom, my childhood drawings removed from the fridge. Theft, I realized, does not always begin with the valuable object. Sometimes it begins with rearranging the room until the rightful owner looks like a visitor. The video began with Mom wearing the red cardigan Celeste later claimed she had been too weak to choose. She sat upright in the downstairs den, thin as a candle but burning with the stubborn light I had known since childhood. Behind her, the lake glimmered through the window. The hospice machine hummed beside the bed. Her hands rested on a folder in her lap, blue veins visible under skin that looked almost transparent. "Mara," she said, and the sound of my name nearly split me open. I paused the video before she could continue. I was not ready to hear her be alive. Then I pressed play because grief does not wait for readiness. "If you are seeing this," Mom said, "then Celeste has done what she promised herself she would do since she was 12 years old. She has mistaken wanting something for deserving it." I laughed through tears. Mom always had a way of turning a knife into a sentence. She named the date. She named the witnesses present earlier that morning, Mr. Klein, Rosa from hospice, and Ben Calder from next door. She held up her signed will. She held up the deed. She stated clearly that Vale House belonged to me, that no later transfer should be trusted unless Klein and Rosa both witnessed it. Then her voice changed. "Celeste came yesterday with Patrick. They wanted me to sign a temporary event use document for the wedding. Patrick said it was only so insurance would cover the guests. But the first page mentioned transfer. When I refused, Celeste cried until Patrick told her tears were not notarized." "What?" A sound escaped me, half laugh, half sob. Mom leaned closer to the camera. I pretended to sleep. They kept talking. The video cut to audio. The screen went dark, but the room filled with voices. "Celeste, she won't last long enough to fight it. Patrick, we need her mark while her medications are still defensible. Celeste, Mara will make a scene. Patrick, then we make her look unstable before she knows what happened. Celeste, the wedding has to happen at the house. Grant's parents think I own it. Patrick, then you better own it." I sat very still. There is a kind of pain so large the body refuses to move around it. It becomes weather. You breathe inside it because leaving is not available. I played the clip again. Then again, not because I needed proof, because some part of me needed to understand how calmly people could discuss destroying me while standing 10 feet from my dying mother. The next file on the drive was a scanned letter to the county clerk, signed by Mom and witnessed by Rosa and Ben. The letter warned of possible coercion by Celeste and Patrick. It included the phrase, "Any deed recorded without my attorney's verification is to be considered suspect." The third file was a shaky phone video of Celeste in the den, arguing near the doorway. "You gave Mara everything because she made herself useful," Celeste snapped. "I am your daughter too." Mom's voice, weak but clear, replied, "Then behave like one." I watched Celeste's face twist into something I recognized from childhood. Not hurt, but entitlement denied. She said, "Fine, let Mara have the house. I'll have the memory of making her lose it." I stopped the video there. By morning, I had copied the files 6 times. By noon, I had called a lawyer who did not know my sister. By evening, I accepted Celeste's request to give a toast at her wedding. I wanted to call everyone immediately. I wanted to send the file to every cousin who had prayed at me instead of listening. But Mom's voice in the video made me patient. She had not recorded it so I could explode. She had recorded it so I could survive the explosion Celeste had already planned for me. So I made copies, labeled them plainly, and let the truth become organized before it became public. Patrick sent me the family resolution agreement 2 days later, and if betrayal had a font, it would be 12-point times New Roman. The document offered me $5,000, permission to retrieve personal sentimental items from Vale House after the wedding, and a non-disparagement clause forbidding me from contesting Eleanor Vale's final property wishes. In exchange, I would acknowledge Celeste as rightful owner and agree not to disrupt wedding events. At the bottom, Patrick added a personal note. Mara, everyone knows this is hard for you. Take the graceful exit before people begin asking why your mother felt unsafe. People, that invisible jury toxic families always summon when they want one person to surrender privately. People will talk. People will wonder. People will think you are bitter. People will call you unstable. The people never have names because names can be questioned. I forwarded the agreement to my lawyer, Aisha Monroe. She called 7 minutes later. This is either arrogant or stupid, she said. Which is better for us? Both. Aisha was the kind of woman who made silence feel weaponized. She had silver hair cut blunt at her jaw, a voice like locked doors, and no patience for families who used grief as camouflage. She asked for the files, the old will, the new deed, hospice records, my bank statements, and every message Celeste had sent since Mom entered hospice. You do not confront them, Aisha said. You do not threaten them, you do not post anything, you let them build the stage. The wedding. I understood then that revenge was not always fire. Sometimes it was lighting. Over the next week, Celeste became generous in public. She tagged me in a photo of Mom's hydrangeas and wrote, "So blessed to honor our mother's legacy surrounded by family." She posted a video of herself walking through Vale House, calling it the place where she had learned what love means. She thanked Grant for supporting her through estate conflict caused by grief. Conflict caused by grief, not forgery, not coercion, not the theft of a house from a dead woman's chosen heir. I watched every post without responding. My silence made the comments worse. Cousins wrote that they were praying for unity. Grant's mother commented, "Your mother would be proud of how gracious you are." Celeste replied with a broken heart emoji and a dove. Performers love an audience too much to notice when the curtain is fraying. Aisha filed a quiet notice with the county contesting the deed's validity and requesting preservation of records. She subpoenaed the notary Patrick used. She contacted Rosa, who had saved her hospice notes because, as she told me, "Your mother said your sister smiled too much around paperwork." She also found Ben Calder, the neighbor, who had seen Patrick's car at the house on the date of the alleged transfer, while Mom was sedated after a crisis dose. I wanted to cancel the wedding. Aisha refused. "Celeste is not just stealing property," she said. "She is laundering reputation. Let her invite witnesses." So I did. Celeste texted me seating charts, flower choices, and one poisonous little message. "I hope you can put Mom first for once." I typed several replies and deleted them all. Finally, I wrote, "What time should I arrive for the toast?" She sent back a heart. Some people here surrender when you are only loading the evidence. In the days that followed, I learned how lonely restraint can feel. People mistake silence for weakness because weakness is easier for them to forgive than strategy. Celeste kept posting, kept smiling, kept using Mom's favorite rooms as backdrops for bridal content. Each photo tempted me to answer with fire. Instead, I fed every screenshot to Aisha, and slowly my silence became a file thicker than Celeste's performance. Grant's mother, Vivienne Harlow, wanted doc photos at sunset because rich people love inheritance most when it looks rustic. She emailed the schedule to everyone for efficiency, copying me by mistake or arrogance. The ceremony would be on the lawn, cocktail hour on the dock, dinner in the orchard, speeches under the tent. At 9, a video montage titled Celeste's Journey Home would play on a large screen facing the lake. I stared at that title for a long time. Celeste's Journey Home. She had never come home unless a photographer was present. The montage request gave Aisha an idea. She asked whether the wedding media company had access to guest-submitted videos. They did. Celeste had invited relatives to upload childhood clips, memories of Mom, and messages for the couple. The link sat at the bottom of Vivienne's email. "You are not uploading the evidence," Aisha said. "I know. You are uploading something that lets us verify the system." So I sent a harmless 30-second clip of Mom teaching me to row when I was 10. In it, Celeste sat on the dock refusing to get in the boat because the lake water had bugs and poor people energy. Mom laughed so hard the camera shook. The next day, the videographer, a man named Owen, called me. "Is this Mara Vale?" "Yes. I'm editing the family montage. The bride asked me to remove your voice from old clips where possible." I smiled for the first time in days. "Did she say why?" "She said it would be emotionally confusing for guests." Emotionally confusing is what liars call context. Owen sounded uncomfortable, so I let silence work. After a moment he added, "She also gave me a drive labeled Official Family Archive. It has property documents in the slideshow. Is that normal?" My stomach tightened. "What kind of documents?" "A deed, a quote from your mother. Some scanned letter saying Celeste was chosen. Celeste was not just marrying at the stolen house. She planned to display the lie as part of her romantic origin story." I asked Owen to send the file list. He hesitated, then said, "I cannot send client material." "Of course." Then I said very gently, "My mother may have been coerced while dying. If the slideshow includes forged documents, you might become part of a fraud. There are sentences people hear with their future attorney's voice." Owen sent the list. Aisha reviewed it and went very quiet. Celeste had prepared slides showing the forged deed, a cropped quote from Mom's old birthday letter, and a final slide that read, "Thank you, Mom, for trusting me with our family's home." Our family's home. Not mine, not Mom's. Ours when Celeste wanted applause. Aisha said, "We need the original video file from your mother in the same format." For the wedding, for the record, I knew what she meant. If Celeste wanted to turn Vale House into a theater, we would let the truth enter through the projection booth. That night I watched Mom's recording again. At the end, after the legal statements, she looked directly into the camera and smiled the tired smile she saved for me. "Mara," she said, "do not confuse peace with letting thieves sleep well." I wrote that sentence on a card and put it in my purse. The more I studied the wedding schedule, the clearer Celeste's need became. She did not simply want guests to admire the lake. She wanted them to witness her belonging there. She needed the house to applaud her. She needed Grant's parents to believe she came with roots deep enough to increase their family's polish. Celeste did not steal shelter. She stole a stage, then invited everyone to watch her pretend it had always been hers. The notary remembered the wrong wheelchair, which was how the first crack opened. Her name was Denise Patel, and Patrick had found her through a mobile signing service 3 counties away. Aisha interviewed her in a conference room with glass walls and coffee no one touched. Denise arrived defensive, carrying a leather binder and a face that said she had already decided we were insulting her professionalism. Then Aisha showed her the hospice record. On the date of the alleged signing, Mom had been bedbound after a fall. She could not sit upright without assistance. She had received medication at 7:40 p.m. The deed was notarized at 8:15 p.m. Denise's log said the signer met her in the sunroom, seated in a red wheelchair. Mom's wheelchair was blue. Denise blinked. I watched the confidence drain out of her slowly, like water through a crack. "Are you sure?" she asked. Aisha slid a photo across the table. Mom in her blue chair, date stamped, Rosa beside her. Denise opened her binder with shaking fingers. The woman was elderly, dark hair, thin. There was a blanket. "My mother had white hair," I said. Denise looked at me then, truly looked. And I saw the moment she understood she had notarized a ghost wearing someone else's illness. Patrick had brought an older woman to the appointment, maybe a friend of Aunt Ruth's. Maybe someone paid to sit in a wheelchair and sign the shape of a name she did not own. The thought made my skin feel too small. Denise began to cry. Aisha did not comfort her. "Who arranged the signing?" Aisha asked. "Patrick Vale." "Was Celeste present?" Denise swallowed. "Yes," she said her mother tired easily and wanted no fuss. No fuss. That phrase again, the perfume of family crime. By the time Denise left, she had signed a sworn statement and agreed to cooperate. Aisha told me not to celebrate yet. People like Celeste count on confusion. We are building clarity. Clarity did not feel triumphant. It felt nauseating. That evening, Celeste invited me to the rehearsal dinner with a message so sugary it stuck to my teeth. "Please come tomorrow. I know things have been tense, but Mom would want her daughters together. Wear something soft. No black, it feels hostile." I imagined Mom hearing that and snorting into her tea. I wore black. The rehearsal dinner was held at Grant's parents' country club because Celeste wanted the actual house reserved for the emotional reveal. She hugged me in front of photographers, whispering into my hair, "Do not embarrass yourself tomorrow." I whispered back, "I wouldn't dream of taking that from you." Her arms tightened for 1 second. Across the room, Patrick watched me with the smug exhaustion of a man who believed paperwork outranked blood. Grant looked uncomfortable but loyal. Vivienne looked at me the way women like her look at inconvenient stains on inherited linen. During dessert, Celeste stood and thanked everyone for supporting her through a painful season of family misunderstanding. She touched her heart and said, "Some people grieve by clinging. I choose to honor my mother by building joy." Everyone applauded. I clapped too, not because she deserved it, Because tomorrow, the sound would be different. After Denise left, I sat in Aisha's conference room staring at the photocopy of Mom's signature. It had become less frightening now, not because it hurt less, but because it had started to look clumsy. Fraud depends on the victim believing the lie is too powerful to touch. But under good light, every fake thing has edges. The wrong wheelchair, the wrong hair, the wrong date, the wrong daughter underestimated. The rehearsal dinner was a trap, but not the kind Celeste thought she had set. She seated me between Aunt Ruth and Grant's uncle, a retired judge who smelled like bourbon and old opinions. Patrick sat directly across from me, smiling whenever someone mentioned Mom. Celeste wanted witnesses to my restraint or my collapse. Either would serve her. If I stayed quiet, she looked gracious. If I objected, she looked proven right. That is how toxic families win in public. They choose the room, feed everyone their version first, and then call your pain an interruption. Aunt Ruth patted my arm. "You look tired, dear." "I've been reading." Patrick's fork paused. "Reading what?" he asked. "Family history." Grant's uncle chuckled. "Dangerous subject before a wedding." "Only if someone edited it." Patrick's smile thinned. Celeste rose again after the main course. She had changed into a pearl dress for the dinner because one performance gown was apparently not enough for a weekend built from theft. She thanked Vivienne for seeing the truth of who I am. She thanked Grant for loving all the wounded parts. Then she looked at me. "And Mara," she said, voice trembling perfectly. "Thank you for being here even though this house transition has been hard for you." House transition. Not theft, not forgery. Transition like a season changing politely. Everyone turned to me. The room waited for an ugly sister. I lifted my glass. "To transitions," I said. Celeste's eyes flashed. After dinner, Patrick cornered me near the coach room. "You are playing a stupid game," he said quietly. "I thought you liked games. You invented one with a deed." His face changed just enough. "You have no standing. I have the will. You have an old will. I have Mom." For the first time, he looked uncertain. I let him wonder what that meant. On my way out, Owen the videographer found me by the valet stand. He pretended to adjust a camera bag while slipping me a card with a handwritten number. "She changed the montage again," he murmured. "What did she add?" "A slide about you." My throat tightened. He looked ashamed. "It says your mother forgave you for trying to control her care." Of course it did. Celeste was not satisfied stealing the house. She needed the audience to believe I had earned the loss. That is the final cruelty of certain betrayals. The thief wants your reputation too, because stolen property is easier to enjoy if everyone agrees the victim was unworthy. I called Aisha from the parking lot. She listened without interrupting. Then she said, "Good. Good. She is defaming you in a recorded public event using forged estate materials. That is not just arrogance anymore. That is useful." I looked back at the club windows. Inside, Celeste laughed beneath chandeliers, radiant and doomed in equal measure. Aisha said, "Tomorrow let her speak first." I understood. A trap is still a trap after the animal changes direction. Driving home from the rehearsal dinner, I replayed Celeste's speech until it sounded less like cruelty and more like confession. She had told everyone exactly what she feared. That my grief might expose her joy as stolen, that Mom's memory might not bless the performance, that I might refuse the family role assigned to me. Unstable sister. Bitter caregiver. Woman who could not let go. Every villain needs a costume for the person they plan to rob. The morning of the wedding, rain threatened but did not fall, which felt like the sky refusing to do Celeste's emotional labor. Vale House had been transformed into something that looked expensive and hollow. White flowers covered the porch. Musicians tuned near the orchard. A champagne wall stood where Mom used to hang wet fishing coats. The dock was wrapped in gauze. On the lawn, a sign read, "Welcome to Celeste and Grant, forever at Vale House." Forever is a bold word to print on stolen land. I arrived early in a black dress Celeste had specifically asked me not to wear. Aisha came as my +1, which was technically true if one counted legal consequences as company. She wore navy, carried a small clutch, and looked like a woman who could cross-examine a hurricane. Celeste saw us near the hydrangeas. Her smile stiffened. "You brought counsel to my wedding. You brought forgery to my mother's house." A photographer turned at the word forgery. Celeste's face went pale, then pink. "Do not start," she hissed. "I haven't." That was the truth. During the ceremony, I sat in the second row while Aunt Ruth watched me more than the vows. Grant looked nervous. Celeste looked triumphant. When she promised to build a home founded on honesty, Aisha coughed once into her napkin. I bit the inside of my cheek hard enough to taste blood. After the kiss, everyone applauded. The lake reflected 100 white chairs and one old house that had seen enough lies to deserve silence. Cocktail hour moved to the dock. Guests praised the property. Grant's father told someone the land would appreciate beautifully. Vivienne discussed winterizing the guest rooms. Celeste floated from group to group, accepting compliments on flowers, dress, and inheritance. Inheritance? That word kept arriving like an accomplice. Owen found me behind the tent. "I did what you asked," he said. "I asked nothing." He almost smiled. "Right. Then purely for technical reasons, the system can accept a last-minute family tribute file from the owner's archive." Aisha took the small card from him and slipped it into her clutch. "Thank you," she said. Owen looked toward the tent where Celeste was posing with Grant beside a table of framed photos. "My sister lost a house after our dad died. Different details, same smile." That is how strangers become allies. Not because they know you, but because they recognize the shape of the knife. Dinner began at 6. Candles flickered beneath the tent. The lake darkened to steel. Celeste's slideshow screen stood behind the head table, enormous and white, waiting. Patrick sat near the projector with a laptop, as if guarding a vault. Aisha leaned toward me. "Remember, let her speak first." Celeste rose after the salad course, glass in hand, glowing under fairy lights. "Before we begin the family tribute," she said, "I want to honor my mother's final gift." The first slide appeared, a photo of Vale House. Then my name. Mara struggled to let go, but Mom chose peace. The tent went very quiet. Celeste looked at me, smiling. She thought the screen belonged to her. When I saw my name on the screen, my body reacted before my mind did. My hands went cold, my vision sharpened, and all the years of being discussed in rooms after I left came rushing back. Celeste had turned me into a slide, a caption, a warning label for guests. She wanted my humiliation documented in high resolution. She forgot documentation had always been my mother's last gift to me. I let Celeste read the forged deed, because some lies need a microphone. She stood beneath the screen with tears shining in her eyes and a voice soft enough to sound sacred. The guests leaned forward. People always lean forward when cruelty is wrapped as confession. "My mother and I had a complicated relationship," Celeste began. But near the end, she saw me clearly. She knew I needed this house not because it was valuable, but because it represented healing. Healing? I glanced at Aisha. Her expression did not move. The slide changed to a cropped image of the deed. Mom's forged signature filled the screen. "This document was painful for my sister," Celeste continued. "Myra had controlled our mother's care for so long that letting go became difficult." Aunt Ruth nodded. Patrick stared at his plate. Grant watched Celeste with the fixed devotion of a man who had invested too much in believing the woman beside him. Celeste placed one hand over her heart. "Mom wrote that she trusted me to restore joy to Vale House." Another slide appeared, a quote in script font. "Celeste knows how to make this home beautiful again." I recognized the sentence. It came from a birthday card Mom wrote when Celeste redecorated a dollhouse at age 9. The manipulation was almost impressive in its stupidity. Celeste had taken a compliment about wallpaper and turned it into a deathbed endorsement. She went on, "Tonight, I ask my family to stop punishing me for being chosen." There it was, the word she had waited her whole life to say in public. Chosen. My mother had chosen me to protect the house, and Celeste could only survive that by rewriting protection as preference. In her mind, love was not something given. It was a competition someone had to lose. She turned toward me with wet eyes. "Myra, I forgive you." The tent breathed in. I stood, not quickly, not dramatically, slowly enough that every chair creak became part of the record. "Thank you," I said. Celeste blinked. That was not the line she expected. I walked toward the small stage. Patrick half rose, but Aisha stood too, and something in her face made him sit back down. Owen adjusted a camera. The screen behind Celeste still displayed Mom's forged signature. I took the microphone from the stand. "For years," I said, "I thought being quiet made me kind." My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Maybe because anger had burned so long it had finally become light. I thought family meant swallowing every insult before it became public. I thought protecting my mother meant protecting the people who hurt her, because exposing them would embarrass everyone. Celeste whispered, "Myra, don't." I looked at her. "You already did." Aisha gave Owen a small nod. The screen went black. For one perfect second, Celeste smiled, believing the system had failed. Then my mother's face appeared 12 feet tall behind her. Holding the microphone, I felt every version of myself standing behind me. The girl who gave Celeste the bigger cookie to stop a tantrum, the teenager who apologized for winning scholarships, the daughter who slept in a chair beside Mom while others sent thoughts and prayers. They had all been trained to step aside. I let them watch while I did not. Mom's voice filled the tent, thin from illness and sharp from truth. "If you are seeing this," she said from the screen, "then Celeste has done what she promised herself she would do since she was 12 years old. She has mistaken wanting something for deserving it." No one moved. Not the servers, not the musicians. Not Grant's mother, who had been lifting champagne to her mouth and now held it suspended like evidence. Celeste turned slowly toward the screen. Her face changed in layers: confusion, recognition, panic, rage. The wedding makeup held beautifully, which seemed unfair. Mom continued. She stated the date. She stated her name. She held up the will. She held up the deed. She said Vale House belonged to me and that no transfer should be accepted unless witnessed by Mr. Klein and Rosa. Patrick stood. "Turn it off." Aisha's voice cut through the tent. "Sit down." He did not sit, but he stopped moving. The video shifted to the hidden audio. Celeste's recorded voice came through the speakers. "She won't last long enough to fight it." Someone gasped. Patrick's voice followed. "We need her mark while her medications are still defensible." The sound that passed through the tent was not shock exactly. Shock is brief. This was recognition arriving late. Guests began turning toward Celeste with faces that said they were replaying every gracious word she had spoken and hearing a second voice beneath it. Celeste whispered, "That is edited." Mom's video returned. "If Celeste claims this is edited," Mom said, "Rosa has the original recording on her hospice tablet. Ben Calder witnessed this statement. Mr. Klein has my written instruction. And Mara, if you are crying, stop wasting water on people who would sell the lake." A laugh burst from me before I could stop it. It came out broken, but it was mine. The screen changed again, this time to the clip of Celeste in the doorway. "You gave Mara everything because she made herself useful." Mom's weak reply, "Then behave like a daughter." "Celeste, fine. Let Mara have the house. I'll have the memory of making her lose it." Grant stepped backward from her, as if distance could rewrite the vows he had spoken an hour earlier. "Celeste," he said, "just her name, nothing else. Sometimes a name spoken without ornament is the first honest sentence in a marriage." She turned on him instantly. "You knew I was fighting for this place." "Fighting," he said. "You said she manipulated your mother." "She did." Mom's face remained on the screen behind them, still and merciless. Aunt Ruth began crying. Not for Mom, not for me, for the discomfort of having chosen the wrong side too loudly. Patrick lunged toward the laptop, but Owen stepped in front of him with his camera still running. "Careful," Owen said. "Everything's lived to backup." Aisha moved beside me and took the microphone. "The deed shown earlier tonight is currently under legal contest," she said. "We have a sworn statement from the notary contradicting its execution, medical records proving incapacity, and evidence of coercion. Anyone involved in destroying records after this moment should understand that there are multiple copies." The tent became a courtroom with flowers. Celeste looked at me then, truly looked, and for once she did not see a sister she could shame into silence. She saw the door closing. The recording did more than prove a crime. It changed the temperature of the room. People who had been warm toward Celeste seconds earlier now looked cold, uncertain, almost betrayed by their own applause. That is the danger of public truth. It does not only expose the liar, it exposes everyone who enjoyed the lie because it asked nothing difficult from them. Grant took off his ring first, and somehow that small movement sounded louder than my mother's recording. He did it slowly, as if his body needed permission from parts of him still loyal to the woman he had married. The ring caught on his knuckle. Celeste watched it with a kind of offended disbelief, as though the true betrayal was not her forged deed, but his refusal to admire it. "Grant," she said, voice breaking into the version she used when tears were meant to purchase obedience. He placed the ring on the head table. "Did you know?" he asked Patrick. Patrick looked around for an exit that was not being filmed. "Estate disputes are complex," he said. Aisha almost smiled. "Forgery is not complex." Vivienne stood, pale with fury. "Our family has been humiliated." For a moment I thought she meant by Celeste. Then she turned to me. "You could have handled this privately." There it was, the anthem of people who benefit from silence. Privately, quietly, gracefully, behind closed doors, in a room where the powerful can choose which facts survive. I took the microphone back. "My mother tried to handle it privately," I said. Celeste and Patrick waited for her to die. Vivienne sat down. Celeste began to cry harder. "Mara has always hated me." That sentence carried decades in it. Childhood bedrooms, borrowed dresses never returned, report cards turned into competitions, Mom's attention counted like currency. Celeste could not imagine accountability without hatred because she had never loved anyone without measuring what they owed her. "I don't hate you," I said. She looked relieved for half a second. "I'm done protecting you." That hurt her more. The wedding dissolved in pieces. Guests whispered, then stood, then gathered purses and suit jackets. Some avoided my eyes, some touched my shoulder. One of Mom's church friends, Mrs. Donnelly, pressed both hands around mine and said, "Your mother told me to believe you. I am sorry I waited until she proved it." That apology mattered more than I expected. Patrick tried to leave through the catering entrance. Aisha's investigator, who had been disguised as a bored guest near the bar, followed him with a phone to his ear. Celeste shouted for someone to stop the video, but it had already played. The truth had escaped into memory, and memory is harder to unplug than a speaker. Grant went to the dock alone. I found him there 10 minutes later, looking at the lake like it had personally deceived him. "I loved her," he said. "I know. I wanted this house because she said it was the only place she ever felt safe." I looked back at Vale House, glowing under wedding lights it had never asked for. She felt safe here because everyone else was locked out of the truth. He nodded once, accepting the cruelty without defending it. That made him different from most of them. "I'll cooperate," he said. I believed him. Behind us, Celeste screamed my name from the tent. The lake swallowed the echo. I did not feel powerful on that dock with Grant. I felt tired and strangely sorry for anyone who had mistaken Celeste's hunger for love. She had done to him what she did to all of us, built a version of herself around his need to believe. The difference was that he had met the real Celeste before years of family training taught him to excuse her. The honeymoon suite became evidence because Celeste had never understood that luxury leaves receipts. After the wedding collapsed, she tried to retreat into the upstairs bedroom Mom had once kept for visiting cousins. Vivienne went with her. Patrick disappeared. Grant left with his brother. I expected the night to end in shouting, but Aisha told me to stay where guests could see me. "Do not follow rage into a private room," she said. "That is where liars become injured." So I stood beneath the tent while workers folded napkins around uneaten cake. Owen kept filming quietly. Mrs. Donnelly collected Mom's framed photograph from the welcome table and brought it to me as though rescuing a hostage. Near midnight, a deputy arrived to take a preliminary report. Celeste came downstairs wrapped in a silk robe, her wedding dress abandoned somewhere above like a shed skin. She pointed at me. She broke into the house. I did not answer. Aisha did. My client used a key retained from her lawful possession before the disputed deed. Also, your accusation is interesting considering the lock change. Celeste turned to the deputy. "She is obsessed, ask anyone." The deputy looked tired. "Ma'am, we are here about allegations of forged real property documents." "I am the victim." "No," Aisha said, "you are the bride." It was the kind of sentence that looked harmless until it landed. Upstairs, the honeymoon suite held more than flowers and champagne. It held boxes of Mom's belongings Celeste had hidden before the wedding, journals, old checkbooks, photo albums, and a locked document case from the office. Celeste claimed she had preserved them for family safekeeping. The key was in Patrick's jacket, found by a groomsman who no longer felt loyal. Inside the case were Mom's original estate papers, including the true deed history, the all-caps instruction about my consent, and 3 letters addressed to Celeste, Patrick, and me. Mine was short. "Myra, if you are reading this after trouble, I am sorry I left you a fight instead of only a home. I tried to raise both my daughters. One of you learned love. One of you learned appetite. Do not let appetite inherit the table." I sat on the stairs and read it twice. Celeste watched me from the hall, mascara streaked down her face. For once, she did not look beautiful. She looked young and spoiled and old at the same time. "What did yours say?" I asked. She folded her arms. Aisha opened Celeste's letter with gloved hands after the deputy photographed the seal already broken. Mom had written 3 pages, not cruelly. That was what made it devastating. She told Celeste she loved her. She told her love was not ownership. She told her the house was not a prize for the child who cried loudest. She offered Celeste money for therapy from the estate account if she chose it voluntarily. Celeste laughed once, dead and sharp. She thought therapy could fix not being chosen. "No," I said. "She thought it might help you stop turning everything into a contest." Celeste's face hardened. "She always made you sound noble." I looked down at Mom's letter in my hands. "No, she made me responsible. You confused the two." The boxes upstairs disturbed me more than the forged deed. Documents were one kind of theft, but boxes were intimate. Celeste had touched Mom's scarf, Mom's journals, Mom's old reading glasses, and reduced them to obstacles between herself and a clean bridal suite. She had not merely tried to inherit the house. She had tried to curate which parts of our mother were allowed to remain visible. Patrick's email was worse than the deed, because it proved the cruelty had not been improvised. Aisha obtained it through Grant, who had access to Celeste's wedding planning inbox because the venue contracts were paid through his family account. Buried beneath florist invoices and seating chart revisions was a thread titled Transition Language. Patrick had written it 6 weeks before Mom died. Use emotional framing. Avoid words like transfer until after recording. Say Alina wants Celeste to carry the legacy. Keep Mara out of house during signing window. If necessary, push unstable caregiver narrative. Celeste replied 9 minutes later, "Can we imply Mara over-medicated Mom without saying it directly?" Patrick answered, "Yes, questions are safer than accusations." I read that line until the words blurred. Questions are safer than accusations. That was how they had poisoned the family against me. Not with one obvious lie, but with tiny, tilted questions. Did Mara seem intense to you? Did Mom look afraid? Was it normal that Mara handled all the medication? Have you noticed she gets angry when asked about the house? A question mark can be a knife if placed correctly. Aisha printed the thread and put it in a folder labeled motive. She said the civil case would move quickly now. The criminal side would depend on the county attorney, the notary's statement, and whether Patrick had paid the false signer. She's going to say she believed Mom wanted it, I said. Let her, Aisha replied. Belief does not explain the email. Celeste texted me that afternoon for the first time since the wedding. You ruined my life. I stared at the message, waiting for guilt to arrive out of habit. It did, faint and old, trained into me by years of being told my boundaries were violence. Then I opened Mom's video again and listened to Celeste say she won't last long enough to fight it. The guilt left. I wrote nothing back. 2 days later, Aunt Ruth came to my apartment with a lemon cake and no apology. She placed the cake on my counter as if carbohydrates could repair moral failure. Celeste is in a very dark place, she said. So was Mom. She is still your sister. I looked at her then, tired in a way sleep would not fix. Why does that sentence only ever ask something from me? Aunt Ruth's mouth opened, then closed. I continued. No one told Celeste I was still her sister when she forged a deed. No one told Patrick Mom was still his aunt when he planned around her medication. No one told you I was still family when you repeated their lies. Her eyes filled with tears. I had once mistaken tears for conscience. I knew better now. She whispered, I didn't know. You didn't ask. That was the end of the visit. After she left, I threw the cake away untouched. It felt wasteful for 1 second, then it felt clean. That night I drove to Vale House alone. The wedding tent had been removed. In the grass, pale squares showed where chairs had stood. The dock was quiet. The house looked exhausted. I stood on the porch and unlocked the door with St. Jude's key. For the first time since the invitation arrived, the house opened without feeling stolen. Every email from Patrick sounded less like panic than administration. That was what chilled me most. He had formatted my destruction. He had broken my mother's last wishes into tasks, talking points, and risk management. Celeste brought appetite, but Patrick brought procedure. Together they proved that family betrayal becomes most dangerous when emotion hires paperwork. The courtroom did not care about tears, which was unfortunate for Celeste because tears were her longest practiced evidence. She arrived in a cream suit, no wedding ring, no Grant, no Vivienne. Patrick sat beside his own attorney, looking smaller without a laptop to hide behind. Aunt Ruth sat behind them with tissues ready, still loyal to whichever version of tragedy required the least accountability from her. I sat with Aisha and Mom's folders. The judge was a woman with tired eyes and a voice that made nonsense sit down. She had read the emergency filings before we entered. She asked Celeste's attorney whether they contested the hospice records. He said they needed time to investigate. The judge asked whether they contested the notary's sworn statement. He said memories can be imperfect. The judge asked whether they contested the video of Alina Vale, explicitly rejecting future transfer. Celeste began crying. The judge looked at her for exactly 1 second, then returned to the attorney. Counsel. That was when I understood how much of my family's power had depended on informal rooms. Kitchens, funerals, group texts, wedding tents, places where emotion could outrank fact because no one had a gavel. In court, Celeste's tremble did not become truth. Aisha presented the timeline. Mom's will, Mom's recorded warning, hospice medication logs, Ben's statement, Rosa's notes, Denise's description of the wrong wheelchair and wrong hair, Patrick's emails, the forged deed, the slideshow, the attempt to publicly defame me using estate materials. Celeste's attorney tried to argue family misunderstanding. Aisha said, "Fraud often looks like misunderstanding when described by the person who benefits." The judge ordered the deed frozen pending full litigation and barred Celeste from entering or using Vale House. She also referred the notary irregularities and related evidence to the county prosecutor. Patrick closed his eyes when she said that. Celeste stood up. "Where am I supposed to go?" The judge looked at the file. "According to your earlier position, you inherited equal liquid assets under the uncontested portion of the will. You may use your own funds." My sister looked offended by the suggestion that consequences should be self-financed. Outside the courtroom, reporters from a small local paper waited because a wedding video exposing a forged lake house deed was apparently the kind of scandal that made county news feel alive. I said nothing. Aisha said we respected the process. Celeste covered her face and walked too quickly, which made the cameras follow her more. Patrick caught my eye near the elevator. "This isn't over," he said. "No," I answered, "but it's documented now." That frightened him more than anger would have. On the drive home, I expected triumph. Instead, I felt hollow. Justice is not the same as getting back what they took. Justice is learning the theft had a shape, a date, a witness, and a file number. It is a beginning, not a cure. Aisha seemed to know. "You did well," she said. "I hate that Mom had to save me after dying." "She did not save you after dying," Aisha said. "She trained you while living." I turned toward the window so she would not see my face break. In court, I kept expecting someone to interrupt the judge and tell her she did not understand us, that families are complicated, that Celeste had always been sensitive, that I should know better than to push. No one did. The rules were different there. Evidence had to stand without family mythology holding it upright, and Celeste's story, once removed from sympathy, could barely walk. Celeste tried to sell the story before the story finished eating her. 3 days after court, a lifestyle blog published an article titled "Bride Betrayed by Jealous Sister During Lake House Wedding." The piece included a photo of Celeste looking fragile on the dock, a quote about weaponized grief, and a claim that my mother had been pressured into loyalty by a controlling caregiver. It did not mention the notary. It did not mention Patrick's emails. It did not mention Mom's recording, except to call it selectively edited media. Celeste had always known how to find mirrors that flattered her. For 2 hours, comments turned in her favor. Strangers called me bitter. They said weddings were sacred. They said death makes people greedy. One woman wrote, "I can tell the sister is toxic just from the fact she wore black." I laughed at that one because sometimes the internet is just Aunt Ruth with faster thumbs. Aisha advised patience. Grant did not. At 6:14 p.m., he posted the full wedding video from Owen's backup, including Celeste's slideshow, Mom's recording, Patrick trying to stop the laptop, and Aisha's legal statement. His caption was only one sentence. "I married a lie and watched the truth object." By midnight, Celeste's article had been updated 3 times. By morning, it was gone. The video spread through town faster than gossip had ever moved in Mom's church basement. People who had avoided me began sending careful messages. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Your mother was fierce. Please let me know if you need anything." Need anything. I needed time back. I needed Mom alive. I needed a childhood where my sister learned no before it became fraud. None of that fit in a text box. Grant called me 2 days later. "I signed an affidavit," he said, "about what Celeste told me about the house, about the slideshow." "Thank you. I should have questioned it sooner." "Yes." He absorbed that without defense. "Your mother was right about her," he said. "My mother was right about many things she wished she was wrong about." After we hung up, I drove to the lake. The house had become quiet again, but not peaceful. Peace takes longer. Inside, I found more traces of Celeste's temporary occupation. Monogrammed napkins, unopened champagne, a guest book filled with messages congratulating her on coming home. I boxed everything and put it in the garage. In Mom's den, I set her photograph back on the mantel. The room looked wrong without the hospital bed and right without the wedding flowers. I played her video one last time, not for evidence, but because I missed the way she said my name. At the end, after her warning, she paused for several seconds. Then she said, "Mara, when this is over, plant rosemary by the cellar. I never liked that bush. It tasted like soap." I laughed so hard I cried. The next morning, I dug it up. The internet version of my life felt grotesque, but useful. Strangers made villains and saints from thumbnails, deciding in seconds what relatives had distorted over years. For a moment, I hated every viewer. Then I remembered Celeste had chosen spectacle first. She had wanted a public inheritance. She had wanted a public forgiveness. She had wanted the audience. Grant simply gave that audience the ending she forgot to control. The rosemary bush hid the second copy, because my mother did not believe in trusting only one hiding place. When I pulled the roots from the cellar wall, the soil came up around a rusted coffee tin sealed in plastic. Inside was another flash drive, a cashier's receipt from the hardware store, and a note. For when the first truth is called fake, I sat back on the damp grass and laughed until my hands shook. Mom had been dying, medicated, frightened, and still somehow more strategic than all of them. The second drive contained the same statement as the first, but it also held raw files from her old security camera facing the den. The footage showed Celeste and Patrick arriving on the day before the forged deed. It showed Mom refusing to sign. It showed Patrick taking photos of Mom's old signature from a birthday card. It showed Celeste opening the desk drawer where the true estate papers were kept. Most importantly, it showed the woman in the red wheelchair. She was not Mom. She was Aunt Ruth's friend Marjorie, a retired choir director who had once played Mrs. Klaus at the fire station and apparently had fewer objections to property fraud than to off-key sopranos. The camera caught her face clearly as Patrick adjusted the blanket over her lap. I sent the footage to Aisha. She replied with 3 words, "Oh, Patrick, no." By evening, Marjorie had been contacted. By the next morning, she had hired counsel and begun cooperating. She claimed Patrick told her it was a harmless reenactment for paperwork continuity because Mom's hands shook too badly. She admitted Celeste was present. She admitted they paid her in cash and promised a donation to the choir fund. A choir fund. My mother's house had almost been stolen with theater, paperwork, and Christmas lady money. I should have felt disgusted. I did. But beneath it was something steadier, certainty. They could no longer make this about my emotions. They could not call a camera unstable. They could not tell a timestamp it was bitter. The county prosecutor opened a formal investigation that week. Patrick's employer suspended him. Celeste's remaining friends stopped defending her publicly and began using phrases like complicated and not my place. Aunt Ruth stopped calling. Then Celeste came to the house. I saw her from the kitchen window, standing at the gate in sunglasses too large for her face. She pressed the buzzer 3 times. I answered through the intercom. "You are not allowed here. I need to talk to you." "No. Mara, please." That word had once been my leash. I said nothing. Her voice cracked. I lost everything. I looked around the kitchen Mom loved, at the chipped yellow tiles, the old clock, the window facing the lake. "No," I said. "You lost what was never yours." Celeste stood there for nearly a minute. Then she removed her sunglasses, and for the first time in my life, she looked smaller than her wanting. "I was angry," she said. "I know. She loved you more." "No," I said. "She trusted me more. You keep confusing love with access." The line went silent. Then Celeste left. I did not open the gate. Finding the second drive changed how I remembered Mom's fear. It had not made her helpless. It had made her precise. She knew death was coming, and still she mapped the exits, named the danger, and trusted me to keep walking after the room filled with smoke. Love, I realized, is sometimes less like comfort and more like a flashlight hidden where only the right person will search. The plea deal came with no apology, which made it the most honest thing Celeste had given me in years. Patrick pled guilty to conspiracy, fraud-related charges, and notary misconduct facilitation. His attorney used words like pressure, family loyalty, and poor judgment. The prosecutor used words like planned, recorded, and financial gain. I preferred the prosecutor's vocabulary. Celeste took a separate deal: probation, restitution, public acknowledgement that the deed was fraudulent, a permanent waiver of any claim to Vale House, community service, mandatory counseling she would likely resent as much as Mom's letter had predicted. Marjorie repaid the choir money before anyone asked, which somehow became the detail people in town repeated most. At sentencing, Celeste read a statement. She said she had been overwhelmed by grief. She said she felt invisible beside me. She said she convinced herself the house represented fairness. She said she regretted the pain caused. Caused, not the pain I caused. The pain caused, as if pain were weather. When the judge asked whether she wished to address me directly, Celeste looked at me for a long moment. "I hope someday you understand what it felt like to be second." Aisha shifted beside me, but I raised a hand slightly. The judge asked if I wanted to respond. I stood. For years, I had imagined what I would say if Celeste finally had to listen. I thought it would be long. I thought I would list every theft, every insult, every moment she turned my care into control and Mom's trust into favoritism. But when the room became mine, I wanted less than I expected. I do understand what it felt like to be second, I said. I was second to your feelings my whole life. We all were. Mom's illness came second. Dad's memory came second. My grief came second. Even your own wedding came second to your need to win a contest no one else entered. Celeste looked down. I continued. You were not punished for being unloved. You were held accountable for stealing from a dying woman and blaming the daughter who cared for her. The judge let the silence sit. Afterward, Celeste passed me in the hallway. For a second, I thought she might apologize. Instead, she whispered, I hope the house feels worth it. There was the sister I knew. I answered, it does. Not because it was valuable. Not because I had won. Because the house felt like Mom's voice refusing to be buried under polite lies. Aunt Ruth waited near the exit. She looked older than she had at the wedding, as though the truth had removed expensive lighting. I should have protected your mother, she said. Yes, I should have protected you. Yes. Is there anything I can do? I thought about telling her no. Then I thought of Mom, who believed in practical penance more than speeches. Donate Celeste's wedding flowers budget to hospice, I said. Aunt Ruth nodded. For once, she did not cry. That made me believe her more. Celeste's statement proved she still wanted the center of the wound. Even in confession, she reached for the old prize, sympathy without surrender. But I no longer needed her to understand me in order to be free of her. That was the quiet victory. Accountability did not require her transformation. It required the world to stop mistaking her resentment for evidence. Vale House remembered my name slowly. At first, every room held evidence. The sitting room was where Celeste filmed her fake legacy video. The den was where Mom recorded the truth. The porch was where I had stood locked out by a new keypad. The lawn was where strangers applauded while a forged deed waited behind a slideshow. I did not heal by pretending the house was innocent. I healed by letting it be complicated. I repainted the guest room Celeste had turned into a bridal dressing suite. I replaced the lock Patrick changed. I rehung the hallway photos in the wrong order first, then the right one, because grief makes even nails feel political. I found Mom's blue mug in a box marked kitchen misc and cried into it like an idiot for 10 minutes. Then I made coffee in it. Spring came late. The lake thawed unevenly, gray sheets breaking into silver. Ben Calder helped rebuild the dock steps, refusing payment because he said, Your mother once saved my idiot dog from choking on a tennis ball. Rosa visited on a Sunday and brought cinnamon bread. We sat in the den and did not talk about morphine or signatures. We talked about Mom's terrible poker face and the way she cheated at Scrabble by inventing words with confidence. One afternoon, Owen sent me the final edited wedding video file. For legal archive, he wrote, also because villains hate backups. I laughed and saved it in 3 places. Grant moved out of state. He sent one letter months later, apologizing again and including a copy of his affidavit for my records. He wrote that he had annulled the marriage and was learning the difference between rescuing someone and being recruited into their lie. I wished him peace. I did not wish Celeste anything. That surprised me. I had spent so long orbiting my sister's appetite that indifference felt like a new language. I practiced it daily. When someone mentioned her, I did not tense. When Aunt Ruth said Celeste was working on herself, I said good and changed the subject. When Celeste's birthday passed, I did not text. The world did not end. In June, Aisha came for dinner at the house. She brought wine and a small framed copy of the court order voiding the deed. It was a joke, mostly. I hung it in the downstairs bathroom where guests would have to confront justice while washing their hands. Mom would have loved that. After dinner, Aisha stood on the dock and looked back at the house. What will you do with it? She asked. For a while, let it be mine. And after that, I thought about the years I had spent caretaking until love and duty blurred. I thought about Mom's letter. I thought about the phrase she had written, do not let appetite inherit the table. Maybe I'll turn the den into a respite room for hospice families, I said. Not a business, just a place people can sit by the lake when hospitals become too loud. Aisha nodded. Your mother would approve. The lake moved in the dark, quiet and certain. For the first time, I believed the house could hold something besides proof. As months passed, I became protective of ordinary days. A kettle boiling, mud on the porch, bills paid without panic, a neighbor waving from the road. These were not small things after a year of defending reality itself. Peace did not arrive as a grand reward. It returned as routine, and routine, I learned, is what thieves disrupt first because a settled life is harder to steal. I did not call it forgiveness, because some words are too clean for what survival leaves behind. A year after the wedding that became a courtroom, I found Celeste's invitation in a drawer. Cream paper, Gold ink, the photograph of her and Grant on the dock. Vale House, private lake estate of the bride. I held it without shaking. That felt like progress and also like loss. Pain leaving the body can feel unfaithful to the person who endured it. I thought about burning it. Instead, I placed it in a folder with the forged deed, Mom's letters, the court order, Patrick's plea agreement, and a printed still from the wedding video. Celeste beneath the screen, my mother's face behind her, the exact second before denial failed. Not because I wanted to live inside the wound. Because records matter. Families like mine depend on fog. They survive in phrases people are too tired to inspect. She means, well, he made a mistake. Don't make a scene. Blood is blood. Your mother would want peace. But my mother wanted truth before peace. She wanted her house protected. She wanted her daughters seen clearly, even if one of us hated the view. On the anniversary of her death, I invited no one. I made her lemon chicken badly. I planted lavender where the rosemary had been. I sat on the dock with St. Jude's chipped statue beside me because hopeless cases deserve lake air too. Near sunset, my phone buzzed. A message from Celeste. I am in therapy. I know that does not fix anything. I wanted you to know I finally watched the whole video. Mom looked so tired. I did that. I am sorry for what I did to her. I am sorry for what I did to you. I read it once, then again. The apology was late, imperfect, possibly temporary. It did not return Mom's final months. It did not erase the locked gate, the public lies, the courtroom, the way strangers had discussed my grief like a property dispute. It did not make Celeste safe, but it named the harm. That was more than she had ever given before. I did not answer immediately. I watched the lake darken. I listened to the small sounds of the house behind me, pipes settling, old wood shifting, wind worrying the porch screen. A home is never silent. It just speaks softly when it no longer has to defend itself. Finally, I typed, I hope therapy helps you become someone Mom could have trusted. I am not ready to know you. I sent it before kindness could weaken into self-betrayal. Then I turned off the phone. People think justice is the moment villains fall. It is not. The fall is only spectacle. Justice is what happens after, when the room is quiet and you are left with the life they tried to take. It is learning to sleep without guarding every door. It is planting something without fearing who will claim the fruit. It is hearing your mother's voice in memory and not only in evidence. Vale House did not become peaceful all at once. Neither did I. But that night, as the first stars appeared over the water, I unlocked the front door, stepped inside, and did not look over my shoulder. For once, the house was not a battlefield. It was home. I kept the folder not for revenge, but for the future version of myself who might one day soften the past to survive it. Memory can become generous when pain fades. It can sand down sharp edges and call old harm misunderstanding. The folder would not let me do that. It would remind me that compassion without memory is only another unlocked door.
I walk through fire in disguise, buried truth beneath their lies. But every scar became my code. Now I won't break, I just reload. The past won't hold me anymore. I'm not who I was before.
From shadows I have found my name, a second chance. a brighter flame.